Hello and welcome back to Live Laugh Stuck. I am Jackie, aka Jackson. It is Moosestuck time, so of course, here is the titular Moosey.
Hello. How's it going?
Today it's Sunday, it was the Xbox Showcase, and as a Dragon Age and Fable fan, it is going pretty fucking good, I'll tell you that.
Was there a Fable announcement?
Yeah, no, there was a trailer at the Xbox Showcase today.
I have to check that out.
Yes. It's so funny. I posted this on Tumblr, but it's extremely funny how, like, Dragon Age in the newest trailer is much more stylized, like kind of cartoony. Mm-hmm. And then Fable, which is normally stylized, it looks much more realistic. So I just swapped.
That is weird.
Act 6, Part 1. This is where it gets, if you thought it was weird with the Act 6, Act 5, Intermission 3, whatever bullshit, Act 6 is where it really goes downhill. And it's a lot of stuff. I am not good at summarizing as I read. And I went to rafe.name and it's so many words. So I went to the Homestuck Wiki and I got that, and it was less words, but it was still so many words. So I tried paring it down, and I'm going to try to kind of do what we did before and, like, summarize a bit and talk about it as is relevant.
Yeah, and, like, I don't know what's going on anyway, so I can't really summarize.
Yeah, I mean, that is part of the Homestuck experience anyway. Like, I was looking at the summary for this, and like, oh, that's what happened. I don't fucking know, man. Like, they'll just say shit. And it's like, I had no idea that that's what I was supposed to take away from that. I did get rid of some of that. I'll get into it here in a second, because we start out with Caliborn, or like we're supposed to be inserting disc 3, right? Mm-hmm. And then Caliborn stomps on the thing that has the discs in it, the sleeve of discs that I believe we saw Terezi have earlier, back in Act 5, Act 2. And instead it's Caliborn's time. Mm-hmm. And he has to play you a song, because this is Homestuck, so you need a song.
And during the song I just wrote, yeah, Hussey really wanted you to hate this guy.
Yeah, because it's a terrible song. It's, like, made with all of those noises you can put in keyboards. Like, if you get, like, a really cheap keyboard that has all of those presets in them that you can just, like, make, like, weird noises with. So it was that. I do love, you cannot skip this. If you try to hit the next button, it prevents you from doing that. Until not only the song is finished, but at the end he holds down a button for applause, and you have to wait until the applause is finished. And at different points, it will change what the pop-up says when you try to hover over the next button. It'll have, like, a little, like, alt text-ish, like, pop-up saying, hey, you can't skip the performance. And then if you do it during the applause, it's like, wait till the applause is done. So I like that little detail.
I didn't notice that. I just figured I would have to watch the entire thing in case there was anything besides the piano performance.
Yeah, that's fair. I didn't really care. I just wanted to skip it. But yeah, no, you can't. And I do like how the hover text changes. I think that's cute. Caliborn takes over the website, which is Homestuck. I have tagged some of my posts Homestuck on accident just because I'm making some typos. Yeah, so Caliborn takes over the narrative because he has a skeleton key now that lets him unlock everything, even the narrative. And he creates Homestuck, which is a poorly drawn recreation of Act 1. Like, we start with John in his room. Yeah. John is called to marry Sue, and it's just a big criticism of Homestuck in, like, the shittiest way, and is like, oh, and how dare you fans, like, want anything from this, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I wrote down a lot of the capital text.
Yeah, I was kind of skimming over that. I'm like, I don't know if I should, like, spend time reading all this, but it is very good. I can try to do a Caliborn voice if you want.
I just have, like, confused yet? Haha, it only goes downhill from here. Prepare to be frustrated and angry as more things happen.
It's so good. And this is where, like, Caliborn and Calliope, especially Caliborn, it makes it really obvious how meta Homestuck is, because Caliborn was made to make fun of a particular type of fan, right? And there is no time this is more clear than his creation of Moosestuck.
Mm.
It's a lot of fun though. I like the shitty drawings of John. I'm quite fond of them. At one point I had merge up on my Redbubble. That was like me recreating the shitty drawings of the beta kids.
I will say from the Caliborn recreation, I enjoy the janky curtain animation of like, I had to cut this into square sprites to kind of make it.
Yeah, I love Caliborn's shitty art, like unironically. Like I don't know, like I love seeing people like try to do art, and like at this point he does have an understanding of how things work at, very very beginner level. And I know that's a lot of that's because Hussey has an understanding of how things work, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I love it whenever there is like art of someone learning art, even if it's Caliborn. But
Yeah.
so I unironically like, his shitty curtains pulling apart and stuff like that. It's just like, it's exactly what it's going for.
Yeah. But still technically better than a child's art. Than a real child's art.
Right. Like a 7-year-old did not make this. And however year-old made it, who was still learning shit.
We should just get some 7-year-olds to redraw all of the Homestuck characters and make that a Flash animation.
Yes.
Homestuck with 7-year-old art.
Yeah, sit down in a classroom of second graders.
Yeah, probably.
And just say, here are some characters. Draw them. Go for it. He does, in a callback to the mayor accidentally hitting tab and unlocking a thing full of tab. He accidentally hits his caps lock key and unlocks a command station with toy horses, how to draw manuals, and an Act 6 super cartridge expansion pack, which is so we can actually do the rest of the story and not Homosuck. But Caliborn fills this with his Cherub Special Stardust, which I assume is just like pixie sticks. That's what I always assume it is, because cherubs are about candy and meat. So, and I'm pretty sure he's eaten it before. Yeah.
What is the wordplay of hitting caps lock? Is it just because it was locked or something?
Yeah, I think it was just locked because there's no caps in there.
Yeah, that's what I would figure if you're going for a straight, like, same play on words. It's like, it's full of hats.
That would have been great, and it would tie into his obsession with Dirk. Because Dirk has a hat on his shirt. But then there would have had to been some justification for a hat being in there. I don't know, like a Dirk hat specific. I don't know. It should have just been Dad's hat. Dad's hat should have fallen out.
I don't know where the horses come into play.
I don't know. Caliborn fans out there, I'm going to grab one of you one day to come on this podcast and talk to me. Because I love you so much, and my brain shuts off when I try to understand the things you tell me. When I try to learn and understand more about Caliborn beyond, like, surface level, it's just like, my brain's like, no. So I need you to come on and explain stuff to me. You're out there. I'll find you. But yeah, Special Stardust and Candy Corn in the cartridge. Just, I can't even imagine. Like, I still remember, like, Sega Genesis was my first console, and just the amount of time you had to, like, fucking blow on them before you try to put it in the slot, because just you get dust and gunk all up in there. Why didn't we have, I'm sure they existed. You might be able to tell me they existed. But, like, you have socket covers, so, like, people, like, won't, like, kids and stuff won't stick stuff in the sockets. It should have been, like, cartridge covers.
I feel like I've seen that with Super Nintendo cartridges. I haven't really noticed it on any other types of cartridge, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe Sega Genesis fans get the short end of the stick forever.
Yeah, I mean, the original Nintendo Entertainment System, just the way it was built in America, was kind of flawed to begin with its, like, spring-loaded design, so all sorts of technical issues with the cartridge reading there.
I mean, I guess I could have just put it back in the box each time, but that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So the cartridge is destroyed.
That still seems to work, mostly.
Yeah, I love the glitches. I love this section and all the glitches that happen because of this. It's a meta layer I really like, even if I don't super understand the like. I know Homestuck is a game, right?
Kind
I
of.
don't understand Homestuck being a game, right? I don't. I don't understand the meta of Homestuck being on discs and cartridges.
Mm.
And how that, like, I understand the concept of joking about it. I don't understand how it works in universe.
Mm.
You had a note about cartridges versus CDs.
So I looked up the year that this part came out, but I don't remember what it was now.
2013 is what you said.
Yeah, and so Switch wasn't out until like 2017, I think. So basically at this point in our history, like there were, I mean, you kind of had SD cards and USB drives that could have more storage capacity than the CD, but the general feeling was that cartridges just did not hold as much and CDs and DVDs were better. So I thought, oh, this would be cool if like the graphics were downgraded or like the resolution was halved or something like that, or the color palette was restricted. But
Oh,
no,
yeah.
it just seemed to have even more features like moving panels.
Yeah, it's just all glitchy because of the stuff in it. Nothing to do with it being a cartridge, besides that stuff could get shoved into it.
Yeah. And I was just like re-looking up in the Homestuck wiki, like reviewing the Inciposphere and then being like, wait, kernel sprite, like, okay, those are named after operating systems, but they don't really do anything operating system related. And it's like, this is just like a surface level. All these computer science concepts are cool, maybe. These words are cool. We're just gonna use them. But not, I'm just being pedantic, but not actually integrating it in any meaningful way to the original concept.
I think Homestuck is one of those things that's meant to be pedantic about.
Well, I'm being pedantic about the computer science not being followed properly.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's a plot hole.
Take that, hussy.
Take that, hussy.
Signed, junior college or community college teacher.
Yeah. So for the past several minutes, I've tried explaining one line that I copied and pasted from the Homestuck wiki. I don't understand it. It confuses me because it uses Callie's way of talking about B1 and B2, and I'm too lazy to go look it up and figure out what that means. But Jade rides the meteor that the trolls showed up on so it doesn't crash into, and she goes through a portal and she gets Earth. That's what happened. Past several minutes of
she gets Earth.
She gets Earth.
Okay, I remember that she had Earth, but I thought perhaps she already had Earth before from the whole denizen shrinking planets thing.
Earth. This is the Alpha Kids Earth.
This is the Jake and Dirk kids. Those are alphas? Okay. So does she have 2 Earths now?
She has 2 Earths now.
Okay.
I'm saying it with the confidence of someone who will just have to be reminded of it whenever it comes up again, because every time I read this, I just kind of say, you know what? I believe that what is happening right here happened.
Yeah.
And I'm going to learn about it, or it's not important to my brain.
It's like when I see someone talking in the story and I'm like, I don't know who this is, but I will just listen to what they have to say.
Yeah, I was actually tempted to listen to the Homestuck Made This World episode about this section when I've been trying to avoid it so it doesn't get too close to what we have. And I did slip up and I listened to the episode for the last section we read, which did make it hard for me to remember where we started. So, not doing that again. Anyway, you know what? She rides a fucking meteor. But there's this whole it's part of this flash animation, but the rest of the animation is destroyed by glitches, which is really cool and kind of sets up how the rest of this section is going to go.
Yeah. And side question for review. How did Jade become dark again?
So when we left off, Jade and John had just come into the alpha session.
Yeah.
The Condis has the powers of all the blood casts, because each blood cast can potentially have like a different ability. So we have seen Tavros controlling animals before. So she uses the bronze blood power to control animals, and Jade is part animal. So turns Jade Grimbark is what it's called, and then Jade teleports the mind control tiara onto Jane's head, which turns her. I forget what the fun name for Jane's evil, but like evil Jane.
Mm.
So that's what happened.
So where has the Condis been?
The Condis is ruling Durst.
In the Alpha Kid timeline.
In the Alpha Kid.
This version of the Condis.
So this is no, the Condis is like the Alternian trolls, and has, because she served Caliborn, she's been able to move throughout all the timelines.
Okay.
So she is and universes. So she is the original like Alternian trolls. Condis is here ruling the Alpha Kid Sturs.
Okay.
There's actually this whole thing. He released this lore document on New Year's 2019 that fucking everyone was like, hey, this sucked. But it was written around this time period, like 2012, 2013, and was not looked at or edited since then. So any like growth Hussey gained on being like problematic, saying some problematic shit and having problematic things, like was not reviewed or edited. So it ended up kind of sucking. But it does go through the Condis's life, primarily in, I think it's both on the Beta Kids world and in the Alpha Kids world. So we learn a lot of cursed, terrible, terrible things. That is more canon than beyond canon stuff, depending on your definition of canon. Anyway, that's besides the point. But yes, she was Betty Crocker in the Beta Kids timeline, and she was the Betty Crocker again. Jane Crocker was going to inherit her thing, so she is the Condis's heiress technically in the Alpha Kids timeline.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Kinda.
Kinda, that's fine. Kinda works.
Mm-hmm.
All of the kids are separated. Dave and the mayor are on Lohak, which is Dave's planet.
Mm-hmm.
Karkat and Kanaya are on Lofaf, which is Jade's planet. Rose and Terezi are on Lolar, which is Rose's planet. Jake and Roxy are in their own separate cells on Durst. No one knows where John is, and they all have their memories wiped because technically the last time we saw them in the last section, they had all been transported to where John was waiting on Lomax, which is Jake's island, or Jake's planet.
Mm-hmm.
So, but no one knows what happened between them all being dumped in front of John to where they are now.
Because of the glitches?
Maybe.
I thought it was just like everyone experienced the static in that flash animation that didn't finish.
That could be it. But yeah, so they had their memories wiped. So this is a hangover situation.
Mm.
I mean, it literally is for two of the characters and not just a reference to the movie.
I've never actually seen The Hangover.
Oh, well, they wake up after a night on the town and they have to go back and figure out what the fuck happened because one of the guys accidentally roofied them all because it's like, drugs are cool. I'll put these in your drink so you'll have a great time.
No.
And they were roofies. So they roofied themselves. It's of its era.
Mm-hmm. Sounds very 2000s or 2010s.
Yeah, 2010s. We will come across several character selection screens that will all have issues with being too glitchy. So if we try to go to Jane's, we see her in a cell with Jake, but it's too glitchy for us to read what is being said or continue on with what's happening. So we instead go to Roxy's cell with Jade. Jade is supposed to create a matriorb for the Condis.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what a matriorb is?
I mean, I guess the trolls all hatch out of it. Something.
So the mother grub hatches out of it,
Okay.
and the mother grub produces the trolls like a queen bee.
Mm-hmm.
And because Roxy is a rogue of void, she can steal something's nothingness to make it a thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is the biggest stretch of anything, of any of the god powers.
She's negating the lack of thing.
Yeah, which is the most OP ability to have next to maybe Jade, but Jade is also combined with like a first guardian who are made to be OP.
Mm-hmm.
It like this is an insane power for someone to have, and I don't feel like it's ever like truly. I mean, I guess like she doesn't. I obviously like this is hard because she starts creating these perfectly generic objects, which is
Mm-hmm.
just a green cube with rounded off edges.
Mm-hmm.
And it I this it just makes me so mad because it's really hard to I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I get the logic of how she can do this based on being a rogue of void. I just think it's dumb. I think it's cool as hell, but it's like
Yeah.
you watch a children's cartoon. It's like that's cool as hell, but with my adult logical brain, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
You know?
And I will say the green cubes made me think like, I wonder if this is an icon for like a generic object in Java or something. I looked at some of the like IDEs we've used to teach kids teach college students and kids, Java, like BlueJ and Greenfoot, but I did not see a generic green cube. But for some reason I was thinking of in Java, everything's an object, so everything inherits objectness. I just kind of went off on a tangent trying to search for something like a reference, but I didn't find anything.
I think a more generic object would be a sphere.
Well, spheres have so many edges, technically. Like, if you think about reading Flatland, like a line would be the most... Well, a point...
Oh my god.
A point would be the most simple, which a lot of people think of as a sphere, but it's not.
I mean, there's a difference between simple and generic. I guess, like, because I think of, like, there's like, the physicist joke of having to think of every problem as though it is in a vacuum in a sphere.
Mm-hmm.
So that always just makes... I just think that a sphere is technically more generic.
I think of it as building blocks, because, like, if you take a dot, and you take... So a dot is 0 dimensions. 1 dimension? I don't know. If you take a dot and you double it, then you got 2 dots and that makes a line. If you take 2 lines and double it and connect those, that makes a square. If you take 2 squares and double it and connect those, that makes a cube. And so on into the 4th dimension and stuff.
Okay, that makes sense. I can get that.
But that's just how I think of, like, if we're talking generic object, I just see it as, like, the base building block of everything else. That was my impression of it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense as a thing.
Don't know why it'd be a cube, though. A green cube. Just as easy to stack.
It is easy to stack. And then, yeah, Jade goes to look for John, who we find out is concealing himself with the breeze.
Mm-hmm.
So she can't send him out like a hunting dog.
But is he just kind of teleporting whenever he does? Is this the same as his inadvertent teleporting?
So he's doing both.
Okay.
Whenever we catch up to him, he's doing both. He is both teleporting at random that he has little to no control over, and he is actually flying around using his breeze powers to go to different places. And or even when he teleports, he uses the breeze to swish away his scent.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, no, it's confusing because they're powers that can be kind of closely linked. I think the only more closely linked the way the teleportation powers could be if they were either time or space. But yeah, so even when he is randomly teleporting, he is whooshing away his scent.
Mm-hmm. Gotta run away from evil Jade.
So, we go to Lohak, land of heat and clockwork. I am cursing myself by saying that one out loud because I don't remember what all of these stand for.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where Dave is. He's in his apartment, reminiscing about things. It's like returning to your childhood bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he at first hates his ironic selfies and ends up loving them.
Mm-hmm.
And looks at all his dead shit and talks about how, maybe if the game hadn't happened, he would have been an archaeologist. Not used enough, fandom.
Mm-hmm.
We don't use... Dirt talks about how he would, like... I think he said he would make puppets full-time if it wasn't for him being on Apocalypse Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And Dave talks about how he might be an archaeologist. And, like, so little do people do people use those compared to like all the other alternate universe careers that they get.
Just make like a Indiana Jones AU with Dave.
Yeah. And Aradia, because Aradia has the hat and the whip. And he talks to himself and talks about how he doesn't want to bug Karkat, which is, to me, it's cute because Karkat's like, you know, has the same issue of like, oh, if you show up and meet all your friends, then are we going to stop being friends? And now here Dave is like, I mean, I would talk to Karkat, but I'd probably bug him too much. And he's probably happy to not have me bugging him so much. So John appears, talks to Dave for a little bit, and then like senses that Jade is coming, I guess, and leaves. And then Jade shows up and is like, hey, was John here? Dave's like, nope. And Jade's like, I can smell him though. It's like, well, you know, I have my John perfume that I spray everywhere. Jade teleports Dave to his alchemitor, and they alchemize a weapon that in this circular thing ends up being the weapon that Dave was originally trying to get out of the stone that he ends up breaking. And is like, hey, well, you need to use this super powerful weapon in order to fight Lord English, and you got to use your time powers and fight me using your time powers. You gotten rusty, so time power and fight me. And Dave's like, nah, I'm good. And this isn't even like the this isn't even like the traditional hero's journey rejecting the call. This is just like, nah, I'm good. Honestly, Dave being analyzed as like the archetypical hero is just, that could be its own podcast episode. I love Dave so much. Because people have pointed out, like, you know, the symbolism of the sword and the broken sword and how he keeps breaking swords and how that ties into his hero subplot. And I don't know. I am not smart enough to do it off the top of my head.
I broke my crafting knife. Does that count as being a hero?
Well, if you break it, you're rejecting the call of the hero.
But I wanted to just craft. I wanted to poke holes in things.
And now you can't.
Yeah.
Because you broke it.
Yeah.
So, you see? Lofaf, Land of Frogs and Frost. With Karkat and Kanaya, where Grimbark, Jade, and Jane are. And Jade starts to explain what the contest wants about, like, the contest and, like, the rest of the group have the same goal of creating the new universe. The contest just wants to use it to rule over, right?
Yeah.
But the denizen, Echidna, won't talk to Jade right now, but it has to be another space player, and has also requested the knight be present, which is assumed to be Karkat. So Kanaya and Karkat have to go talk to Echidna about shit in order to get the Genesis frog that Jade created to make the new universe. The trolls refused, which lead to a demonstration of Jane's power where she can revive everyone once. So she kills Karkat and revives him, and that's it. If Karkat dies, he cannot come back. And
he looks very sad the rest of those panels.
Yeah, well, he did just get stabbed and died.
Yeah.
And John is also there. On Lolar, Land of Light and Rain, the two seers, Rose and Terezi, are hungover. They talk about how, like, man, it sucks that we both got addicted to shit and now we're hungover from it whenever people, like, needed us. Like, we were supposed to predict shit and, like, look at the best outcomes for stuff. And Terezi is like, man, I should not have gotten my sight restored because everything is fucking bright.
Yeah.
Rose's speech in particular is affected with glitches. And then this is another thing I didn't catch. A cloud of purple glitches is seen beside Rose, and she suddenly is wearing Terezi's red shades. I just know that suddenly Rose is wearing the shades, and I didn't realize it was because of the purple glitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very funny series of panels. I love Rose and Terezi talking, TBH.
Honestly, like, I don't know how much Hussey knew about, like, speedrunning back in that day, but it would have been cool to see more of that sort of thing as well. Like, going through, like, memory you're not supposed to access in order to twiddle with variables and, like, access things you're not supposed to have.
Considering how much Vriska was about cheating and speedrunning, and Rose was about breaking the game, yes, there should have been more about those two things.
Yeah.
But there was just so very little about the actual gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we would have to have, like, an alternate universe. Here is where a game went perfectly, right?
Yeah.
To be able to see stuff like that, I
Mm-hmm.
think.
I'm still having a hard time conceptualizing the entire game, but we already kind of talked about that.
Everyone has a hard time conceptualizing it, and so many people try to make games and tabletop role-playing games out of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most interesting and most boring part of Homestuck.
Aw.
So John shows up, uses his breath powers to get rid of all the glitchy shit, explains said breath powers to Rose, and explains the missing memories.
Mm-hmm.
That they were just like planning on going to find the Alpha Kids and scouting expeditions and stuff to go find them before Jade came to separate them all. And he thinks he can remember it because he's kind of unstuck in reality.
Yeah.
Rose tells John, like, okay, yeah, go find the Alpha Kids and tell them that we're here and shit. He's like, okay, you want me to say anything to your mom? And she's like, I don't know. And then as soon as he leaves, thinks of something. And that's, I mean, it's, if suddenly you could say something to your dead mom and you've been mourning for 3 years, it would be hard to think of something on the spot with a hangover.
Yeah. What do you think she would have said?
I think it would have just been, I love you.
Mm.
I think it would just been something simple like that. I don't know. What do you think?
Maybe that. I don't know also what I would say to if I just had like a third party saying something to like a deceased family member.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know what I'd say to a deceased family member.
Mm.
All 3 Jacks, as well as Dirk and PM, are headed to the Infinsphere. Fucking hate these words. I hate Homestuck terminology so much because I can't say them. Incipisphere.
Mm.
Anyway, to Skya, to the session. You had a question asking how Dirk got out there. Jade teleported him all the way the fuck out there.
Okay. After she was Dark Jade?
Yeah, after she was Dark Jade, some of the first things she did is teleport all the kids away to various spots, and Dirk got sent to the outer reaches of everything.
Was there a reason? Like he was too powerful?
Yeah, he was too powerful and he wasn't needed for anything.
Mm-hmm.
At least at that moment. So he got teleported away to be out of the way for everything.
Mm-hmm.
So Dirk contacts Arqueous Sprite since he can't get a hold of anyone else. And I wish the rest of Act 6 had just been him and Arqueous Sprite talking. I loved it so much.
I did look up, I forgot what the Arqueous Sprite was, besides just being like Equius, and I read the little wiki on it, and I think something cool in there was like anytime he tries to curse, it glitches out because like one personality would curse and the other would not.
Yeah, Equius didn't curse, and AR did. So yeah, they just censor themselves all the time. Extremely funny. I love Arqueous so much. I love his conversation. Like, it's just, no one loves being themselves more than Arqueous. It's very good. Arqueous is there with Dave Sprite, and they're kind of bonding over being the Sprite offshoots of the original versions of people, which is fun. And then Dirk's feeling weird about the whole thing, which is great. It's such an uncomfortable conversation for Dirk on so many levels. And he's encouraged to try to contact Dave, but when he does, nothing's coming through. They're both too glitchy.
Yeah.
Or at least Dirk's too glitchy. And we get back to character select, except 2 of the options can't be. So we have Lohack with Dave and Jade, Lofaf with Kanaya and Jane, Lolar with Rose and Terezi, and we can only select Lohack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this says some of the stuff I was saying before, so I might have said it a little bit too early, but whatever. That Dave needs to get ready to defeat Lord English, and Dave says that the only way to master time travel is to never use it, and he's not going to fight Lord English. And then they get into an argument about Jade has some resentment toward Dave's Sprite that's being projected on Dave, and so they kind of talk about that. Relationship drama. Imagine like having a relationship drama with an alternate version of you.
Yeah.
It's like, that wasn't me though. Like,
That's a whole
that's not my fault.
3 years of evolution in a different environment.
It reminds me how people talk about like their partners having a dream where they did something shitty and waking up and hitting them. And I was like, it wasn't me, that was your dream.
That's always funny. I told my cousin, like, I dreamt that you left, like, you abandoned me at the store.
In order to stop arguing and spur Dave on and motivate Dave, she kicks the mayor off the platform, hoping that he would use his time powers to stop her, but he uses his flying powers to save the mayor.
Yeah.
And just flies away, and Jade's like, why is being evil so hard?
And I just like how the mayor just had his arms out. Or their arms out. I don't remember what the mayor is. But...
implied boy? I think he, him pronouns get used for the mayor.
Very cute.
Very cute. Mayor's so cute. This is the side of the conversation where Dirk tries to contact Dave, and Dave can only see glitches, but he can't see who's sending it, so he assumes it's Dave's sprite and does not realize it's Dirk, and it's like, hey, message me later when the glitching's better. So now we get the middle option on low faff with Kanaya, which Jane starts talking instead of doing this silent, I look like a robot and I'm evil thing, and ends up getting Kanaya to buy a bunch of troll blood, which is great. I love Elevator Stuck so much, and I love these little, like, go on, buy my shit. And, like, this, on top of Jane being an heiress, makes everyone think that Jane's such, like, a capitalist, and that just doesn't get out of people's heads because no one thinks about Jane enough, when really Jane is in love with Ron Swanson, who is a libertarian.
Oh, gross.
So Jane just needs to go off and create a ocean society, like all true libertarians want to do.
Let's just go live on your own by yourself and fend for yourself. Have fun.
Both societies and libertarians are a thing that just pops up repeatedly in video games and real life. It's extremely funny. We go back to Lohack with Dave and Jade, where it starts doing the same thing, but John shows up. Dave says, my time player senses are tingling. This ain't right. And John's like, just go back to what you were doing. Nah, the moment's ruined. And then he gets the Dirk text.
Yeah.
And then we go back to the last option, Lolar, with Rose talking to herself, trying to figure out why the Condess wants the two seers on the same planet, and if she's supposed to complete her quest, and if she even can anymore, since that was meant for an older version of her. And she tries talking to Kanaya about, like, hey, so maybe we should talk about how I'm addicted and how I really sucked about that. And Kanaya's like, oh yes, my addiction. I mean, yeah, sure, we can talk about I'm busy right now, goodbye. Because she's in the middle of buying a bunch of blood. Terezi alchemizes. Terezi makes a red blindfold for herself, so she just cannot see anymore, and she goes off and tells Rose that she's going clown hunting.
But what if she drinks the clown blood? Will it be full of Fago?
Oh my god, right? Yeah, I wonder how that is. Like, people joke about how vampires in the 1800s had to deal with everyone being so full of cocaine. Cocaine and asbestos.
Vampires in the bubonic plague.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it wouldn't be like a blood disease per se, but just like, this specimen is off.
Or like fucking in Resident Evil 8, this bitch stale. The character select screen, and Hutsy actually shows up and is mad about the glitching, so reposts Arania's leprechaun lecture.
I did not read that.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally just the same thing that we already read, so yeah. We go back to Lohack, where John arrives again to stop his past self from interrupting and ruining the moment, and they have one of those, like, sequences where they just stare at each other back and forth, and MSPR imagines them making out, which is accurate. And future John tells past John to go find Roxy, hits him on the head, and that somehow activates his teleportation to go away. And past John arrives where we saw Jane and Jake, but it was too glitchy to read, and uses his breath wind powers to get rid of all the glitches. So we can see some of the worst conversations ever because Jane is evil, and I guess evil Jane is like an evil version of trickster Jane, where she just wants to make babies with Jake.
Kind of creepy. Jake did not react well to that.
It's very creepy. Yeah, Jake cries a lot and really embodies a typical like old female character, like love interest type shit.
Mm.
But he cries a lot, and Bringo Sturk shows up, and he's like, Bringo Sturk, help me. And Bringo Sturk is like, I don't know, get better with your hope powers. Not my problem. And Jane says that he's terrible and pathetic, and the only reason he is there is because he's hot. Which is just like, again, like, it's just like, I feel like there is some specific female character archetype that I'm trying to think of that Jake inhabits.
I don't know enough about different archetypes.
That's fair. Jake is a sex object. Like, he is objectified here. Like, that is what he exists for in this moment. John then leaves to find Roxy's prison cell. Roxy has made a fort out of the perfectly generic objects, and there are also some pumpkins lying around. So you got perfectly generic objects, and just above that is pumpkins, which is a very Homestuck thing.
Class pumpkin inherits public object.
John convinces her for them to talk by saying, it's like, well, I figured out God powers, so maybe I can help. And then explains the entire backstory. And Roxy's like, a new boy that I'm not related to. Perhaps make out with him? Yes. I love Roxy, and I do think that the John Roxy ship can be cute. But in this moment, it is definitely...
It's like being a teenager again.
It's being a teenager again, and it's also like, before she only had 2 boy options, one of which was gay, and the other of which her other 2 friends were also very into, and so she didn't have a shot because of the other 2. And so now here is another boy that has appeared, who she is not related to, who does not seem to be gay, but who knows, and who, as far as she knows, no one else has their sights set on. So I do think this is just like first new boy I've seen that I can potentially mac on. I do want to mac on. Because Roxy is the incel of the alpha kids, and I love her so much. It's so funny because she's like looking intensely, but John thinks she's just bored. And then Roxy recaps her own session and asks about her mom, and John explains ectobiology shit too, and how they had previously met while she was asleep. John's like, oh yeah, and Rose had something to say. Hi. Just has to make something up on the spot.
Yeah.
But Roxy talks about Calliope, and John offers to go get the life ring and give it to Roxy so she can give it to Calliope, because John's just very trusting like that. It's like, oh, well, that sounds selfless, and I don't know anything about Calliope really, but that sounds good to me. So here's another thing that I didn't get, but after John leaves, Roxy tries the matriarch again and makes it, except it's mixed with a perfectly generic object, and I did not notice that. I thought she just made it. I thought she just made the matriarch.
I thought it was like discolored. And so I was like, she like kind of made it?
Yeah, I missed that when I read through it before. So she's very close to making the matriarch. John goes to grab the ring of life, but it's gone. Dun dun dun. And another thing I didn't notice, but Jake's house appears to have been rebuilt and extended. Caliborn dismisses the story as uninteresting, and the curtains close. The curtains that Moosey mentioned earlier about being like kind of clunky and square and how they close. And that is the end of Act 6, Intermission 1.
Is all the 661, 662, those are all intermissions?
I think so, because we definitely switched over to where the intermission is where the real plot is happening.
Cool. That makes it interesting, I suppose. We just have these intermissions and then finally end the story eventually, maybe. I don't know.
The story does end eventually. I will promise you that. There is an end in sight. It's not close in sight. But it is in sight. We are getting close to the gigapause.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about the next. I don't think it's the next one. Maybe the one after the next one.
Let's see, October 2013, October 2014. Yeah, between 662 and 663.
So 663 is coming back on October.
Yeah, last page of 662 is October 2013. First page of 663 is October 2014. Sometimes you just needed to take a break for a year.
Oh, and what a break it was. Jesus Christ, what it ends on. I'm so excited. I assume we'll be able to go through all of it the next time. I'm so excited.
378 pages.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Cool. I'm very excited for next time. It felt to me like a lot happened in this, but I feel like a lot of setup happened more than like anything actually happening.
Yeah, it felt like it went by pretty fast, I think. But we'll see.
I really like all the glitch effects. I really love Caliborn's piano flash, how terrible, fucking awful it was, but you couldn't get past it.
Such a skilled musician.
And yeah, and we've seen John is now unstuck from reality and is affecting things that happen instead of like, with Dave's time powers, like he only makes stuff happen that have already happened. Stable time loops. John does actually change stuff, and panels in the comic change based on what he did. Like if you go back and read the initial Dave and Jade conversation, you will now see two Johns in that panel hanging out in the background. Like inherently archive readers who, archive readers that existed at the time and archive readers now who do not use the unofficial Homestuck collection or don't read it as new readers, like will see changed panels. It's very interesting. I just have to be, I wonder what that's about. That's weird. It's just like it inherently makes a whole different experience. Like Homestuck like changes how live readers and archive readers experience it beyond just like, at the beginning you could have a say in what happens, but it's just like you are reading a slightly different comic.
Yeah. I'd be interested in seeing that. I guess if I read it a second time, I'll see it.
Yeah, and there's a list of panels that change somewhere, I'm sure. But because it starts out pretty subtle with just like, oh, there's an arm in this panel. If you happen to notice that, it's cool. It's interesting. Just imagine it's like, I wonder what this is, and someone says, you will find out towards the end of Homestuck what that is. You have to wait thousands of pages.
Yeah, not even halfway through. Way past that.
Yeah, past halfway through. Homestuck is so fucking long. It's great. It's so funny listening to Homestuck Made This World and people talking about like, yeah, this is where I dropped off. This is where I saw other people drop off. This is where a lot of people dropped off. And like that just keeps happening throughout Act 6, where it's like, oh yeah, here's a new section where people started dropping off.
Yeah.
I always liked it. I mean, I know like people are like, oh, you're a Dirk fan. Of course you liked it. I was not a Dirk fan until 2019. And I read Homestuck while it was live since like 2012 or something. And I just was not a Dirk fan until 2019. I didn't hate him, but like I was not a huge Alpha Kids fan for the half of the time that I've been into Homestuck. So I just always liked Act 6. It pandered to me.
Yeah.
But how are you feeling about it? Is this where you would drop off if you weren't part of a podcast?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to just stick with things in general. Like when I read a book, I have to read it all in one day. Otherwise, I'm going to put it down and never read it again. Or like pick it up in a year or something.
ADHD core, yes.
Yeah, so, it could be something that I'd be like, I'll check some of this out. But it definitely helps having an external motivation.
For sure. Well, the next time, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to get to the next time. How the next part ends is... I'm hyping it up so much, and I hope it's worth it. Because
Everyone dies.
I'm so excited. Okay, but we'll leave you this for now. By the time this comes out, the Shipfest The ship says, Jesus Christ. You can see where my mind is at all times. The ship name rating episodes should all be done. So unless I've started another new section, you'll get the next part of this in 2 weeks.
Yay.
I'm so excited. Moosey, where can people find you?
moosady.itch.io.
That's it? Okay, well, that's in the show notes. You need to come into my Discord to hang out because my Tumblr got nuked, and I'm not really on Twitter that much, and I'm not really on Mastodon that much, and I'm not really on Blue Sky that much, and I could just keep going for different social networks if you want me to. If you want to keep up with me, join the Discord or subscribe to my newsletter. The Discord is the best place where you get polls, you get live reactions, and just other shit that we say that has nothing to do with anything I'm talking about. The newsletters, I forget to make sometimes. I try to make them, but no one reads them, so it's very hard for me to keep making them. But I try to make those at least once a month.
Newsletters are very 1995 core.
Yeah, more podcasts have started making them, so I try to get into them, and it's another one of those. It's like, okay, well, if you don't want to have to go follow me on Tumblr, and if you don't want to join the Discord, and if you don't want to try to find me on all these different platforms, and this way I don't have to keep joining new platforms whenever things explode, here is a newsletter, and you can just get info on that. I don't know, I'm excited. We're going to be taking a break after the next section for the gigapause. And we have some other stuff in mind, some Homestuck related, some not. Some I'm also thinking about that I hope that I can start, and we'll see if I can start. There's a limited amount of time in the day.
There is.
Anyway, links in the show notes. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you to Domi for composing the theme song and editing the episode. You can find more of her work at soundcloud.com/dominothief. Shout out to our fakest fan tier supporters, Danny the Spoonlord and Tezrak. You can become a supporter and receive early episodes and bonus content for as little as $1 a month over at ko-fi.com/jaxyax, or simply give a one-time tip. For information on and links to my other projects, head over to jaxyax.com. Thanks again for listening.